Hello, it's Larry Clark with Excelsior Music Publishing. We got something different for you today. We're going to be talking to the conductor of the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble, Dr. Daniel J. Schmidt. Hey, Danny, what's happening?
Howdy, howdy.
Thanks for being with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the history and the background of the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble. And to go along with that, we just dropped the 2020 recordings of the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble for band and orchestra. They're available on all streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Amazon Music, YouTube. It goes on. There's actually 150 different streaming services around the world. So that's kind of what we got going. So Danny, talk a little bit about, what is the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble and, how did that all get going?
Gotcha. Well, actually, I guess we'd have to call it recording ensembles because we do a lot of string music as well, and then we do obviously band music, and we might even be branching out to do some jazz band sorts of things. And fortunately, we were able to. And of course, you know this already, Larry, but for your watchers, you were really taken with the recording quality of a disc that I did with one of my college ensembles, the actual quality of the recording. And so then you contacted Smith's recording engineers out of Asheville, North Carolina, to try to produce your CDs, and that's when you began to collaborate on that, working to try to get an ensemble together and figure out how we're going to make this work. So it's
right.
Orchestra and band primarily right now.
Great. So when tell everybody, kind of how you put the first group together and, the membership of the group. How did that come about?
Well, fortunately, I mean, when you approached me about trying to do this in the first place, I'm very fortunate to know some of the best music performers, not just in the country, but in the world. And one of the things that makes them such great performers is not just their actual ability to play their instrument, but because we record about 100 tunes during the course of a week with Trade Winds, they need to be able to have incredible stamina and endurance on their instruments as well. And they also have to have a love and passion for what we play. And these people, whether it's a grade 1 or a grade 6, they give it their all each time and make it a positive experience. Lastly, they also have to be able to work together for a week because the red light is on when we're recording, sometimes as many as 12 hours a day. So they have to be able to get along and have a tolerance. Testy personalities don't work well in a setting like that. So yeah, we've got a great bunch of people that I'm really fortunate to work with.
And if I can add to that, of course, we've been doing this since 2002.
Almost
together.
20 years now, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. But in reality, there's a core group of players in the group that have been with us since the beginning.
That's correct. It's not many at this point, and we've even had players come and go in the ensemble. When I say come and go, I mean pass on. We've had 3 or 4 players that were an important part of our first years who aren't with us anymore, and we all miss them, and it's always a little grim to have to come back the next year and take a moment in silence for those players that we miss.
And I would also add for the people watching is that it's also it's one really big, huge family. I mean, we all, like you said, we all get along. People do things, on off hours when we're not recording. We enjoy each other's company and especially the quality and the musicianship of each of the players, which makes it just feel like home as soon as we gather back together. So, people might say, well, this isn't really a real group that's plays every day, but I can tell you that it's the same core people for many, many years. Some haven't been since the beginning, but we've had some that have been, maybe the last 10 years even. So that really makes it seem like a tight-knit group that really comes together and puts a lot of musical recordings together in a huge hurry.
Yeah, and for the band, I mean, again, they come from all over the country, sometimes from all over the world, and we've been meeting in Tampa since I'd say probably 2004.
Yeah, that's
and Does that sound about right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And, before lunchtime, we'll have whoever's a local person tell everybody in the ensemble, well, here's 10 different restaurants you can go to lunch. And uh, then one guy will just say, well, let's all go to this place. And so all 37 of them all, go cram into one restaurant together, because
Yeah.
a lot of it is the camaraderie, the chance to get to hang out. So.
Well, and one of the things that I want to share with everybody too is that, we have worked together for a super long time. We go all the way back to college at Florida State University as undergrads. And then we worked together when we were both teaching. I was teaching middle school and you were teaching high school. Talk to everybody a little bit more of that story.
Well, gosh, I remember when you came into the music lounge at Florida State one day, and then the Challenger space shuttle had exploded. I mean,
Yeah.
but we've had a lot of life experiences together. You and I are on the phone together when you were working in New York, and we had an engraver from Ireland on a three-way phone call, and I was in North Carolina, and all of a sudden the line went dead, and that's because 9/11 was taking place a half hour or a half a mile from where your office was.
That's right.
I mean, there's been an awful lot of experiences that we've shared over the years. But mainly, I was teaching high school band in a pretty rough situation down here in Tampa, and you were judging one of the marching band shows, and just one of those moments. And I'm sure most band directors have these experiences where they're just so happy to get a judge that says everything that you want them to say, just says it in a different way and validates what you're trying to accomplish with your kids. And for me,
Right.
being a first-year teacher in a rough situation, that meant a lot. And so we've moved on a lot from there. And I ended up writing some marching band drill for me, and a marching band show or two. And
Yep.
and you went on to Syracuse, and then I came up to Syracuse, and you were the director of bands, and I was the associate director of bands for a couple of years. And then we both got in a car together one day and decided we were both leaving at the same time, going to different jobs. You were going to Warner Brothers, and I moved down with, because I was commuting with my wife at that point. She was in North Carolina, and the band job opened up there, and it just so happened the same day that those opportunities opened for both of us. We were able to tell each other at the same time, but we've always kept in touch over the years. So yeah, we're blatantly honest with each other, which I think makes us collaborators. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people notice even in the group is that, we will agree to disagree on some things, in the recording process, but ultimately there's enormous respect for the musicianship. We're like-minded in that, how we like to see, the elegance in music and phrasing and stuff like that. I don't want to get too, crazy deep on that stuff. We can probably do that on a whole other session later on, but that we've done this, we've done this together for so long that it's just like become easy because we kind of think, in the same vein musically. So that's really helped a lot. And
yeah, for players that are new to the group, when we bring a new player or two into the ensemble, and the way it's set up is, obviously I'm conducting the group on the stage, and the players are sitting on the stage, and you're off in a separate room, little recording studio with our friends Dick and Steve, sometimes from Soundsmiths, doing the recording engineering part. But you can speak to us through a speaker that's right next to me on the stage. And sometimes when you say something through the speaker, if I make a weird face at the group or something, then the group's like, uh-oh, mom and dad aren't getting along so good right now or something, so. But after they've been in it a while, they enjoy it. It ends up being a lot more fun for them.
But literally since, as we said, we started this in 2002 or so, and we've literally recorded thousands and thousands of pieces for orchestra and band.
That's correct.
And although we wanted this to have always wanted this to be more of I guess you'd say a real group and a presence, because I do believe teachers use these recordings for examples for their students. They appreciate them. I get great compliments at that. But I think we've taken a concerted effort with Excelsia to put Trade Winds more at the forefront. For example, doing these streaming recordings that are out there. putting on every, every website, everything we do, Trade Winds Recording Ensemble, because I want people to know, the quality and the time and effort and the care that's taken, to make these recordings. So, talk about
And
maybe
we're
about,
grateful for that.
yeah, talk about that a little bit. How sort of that developed. Now we have well, we've had a Facebook page for a while, but now it's growing in popularity. People are starting to, like the Trade Winds Facebook page a lot more. So, go in that direction.
Sure. I guess so. But one thing that you need to know about me and Larry is that he is all the technology, and I am none of the technology in terms of anything we ever do together.
As you
I'm
can
just
see
an
behind
idiot
me,
when
yeah.
it comes to it. Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate when I taught college that I had a secretary who was really good at this, and that what it's ended up doing to me is be 25 years behind the rest of the world. So now I'm trying to catch up a little bit, but it's real slow.
Yeah.
So most of that, is done by Larry or somebody else. With regard to the Facebook page, it ends up being almost more of a family reunion type page for all the players to kind of keep in touch. And they do a lot of networking because a lot of them are college professors, again, from all over the country, and they open up opportunities for each other to do clinics and, workshops at different schools, those sorts of things. So, and to share pictures, from the course of the week, and, you know, uh, things like that. So that's pretty much, the Facebook part of it. With regard to all that recording stuff Larry was talking about in terms of Spotify and Apple, that's all Larry and Excelsior Music putting those things out. We've also done there for a long time. We did the recordings for Carl Fisher Music, and I know I had some difficulties trying to get again, I'm not good at that sort of thing, but trying to get some of those recordings available for people to access. And I know Larry worked hard on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We also record for Winger Jones Music, and we also we recorded Sandy Feldstein's company Play in Time Music. We did a lot of things. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, it's pretty much, that's kind of where we went with everything. But one of the things I want to point out to the folks watching too is we feel so strongly about these recordings and how well they're done and how musical they are for young students especially. And I always get great compliments, especially about the way the musicians record the lower grade levels, the grade 1s and 2s, because they still take, because so many of them are studio teachers at colleges, they take teaching to heart and they want to teach through their playing. And so what we're doing is now every piece of music that we put out at Excelsior, right at the bottom, it says recording available on all major streaming services, because we want your students to see that and go, oh, I love Spotify or I love Apple Music. And they go on their phones and they can hear a quality ensemble that's real people, real musicians, real conductor, stuff like that. So that they can learn from that. All of our things that are on Smart Music, the recordings that are available on the Smart Music platform, and also the Practice First platform, which is similar technology to the Smart Music, are all the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble's recordings. So that's, I think that's a beneficial that Danny and the musicians of Trade Winds are doing for the educational community.
Yeah, and all of them, all the players are respectful of the music, whether it's grade 1 or a grade 6. They really want to do a good job with it. Sound engineers really wants to do a good job with this. I want to do a good job with it. Of course, you do. To the point that, I mean, past several years, you're getting more and more of your composers who will just come down to Tampa. Number one, because it's in January. We always do this around Martin Luther King Day.
Right.
So Tampa in January is a great place to be in January.
Yeah.
But they want to come and they just sit in the hall and you get a chance to hear their music read by us, and be part of the experience, be part of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we had 7 or 8 composers. It's the most we've ever had. And they just literally come to sit in the hall and enjoy it. And as maybe if some of you have seen on Facebook, if you follow the Excelsior page, and if you don't, please do. We do live Facebook feeds where we'll record, you'll actually see the process. You can actually go back in our feed and probably find some of those. And we also put up, of course, YouTube videos with the scores turning. All those recordings are things Danny conducts in the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble. So it's a great resource for educators that you can use. So maybe Danny, ask you a question. Since obviously you're a awesome band director and educator. How do you think teachers can use, especially during this time when they can't be with their students, how can they use these recordings, to help their students? What do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, we are in very strange and bizarre times right now. I mean, it's challenging. I'm working with a public school system, but I'm not a band director within that, and watching them. And it's not, and seeing my own personal Facebook pages with band directors from all across the country. Everybody's really stepping up to the challenge and really trying to, bring great experiences to their students. I mean, in these dark times, it really gives me hope. But in terms of these recordings, I mean, it's to me, I think the best thing that can come from it, and this may sound arrogant in some way or something, but just getting a chance to hear a great ensemble on a regular basis, regardless of whether they're playing the piece that, the piece that's listing. So even if it's on Spotify or something, if a band director just takes 1 or 2 tunes a day and sends them to their kids and says, just listen to this, just listen to it. So they're hearing characteristic sounds on the same instruments that they're trying to make characteristic sounds.
Well, the other thing I want to point out, which we haven't yet, is if you look behind Danny, you can see that's the Trade Winds on stage. We actually record in a hall on a stage because we feel strongly that we want it to sound like a band on a stage. We don't want it to sound like it's a band in a recording studio with a microphone in front of everybody's instrument. We want it to have.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the magic of soundsmiths. I mean, all they do is boom 2 mics up over my head.
Yep.
But we spend a little bit of time when we first put the ensemble on a stage to try to get everybody in the right place on the stage so we get the balances the way we want them to be. I'll run back into the recording area, throw some headphones on. We'll argue back and forth for 30 seconds and go back and, move a couple of people around and try again.
But mostly agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to sound like a band. I mean, if you got a microphone over every player, that's a very unrealistic situation. And in my mind, does not sound like a band. That's not how Eastman recorded. Right. That's not how the President's Own records. They record like bands because it's band music, orchestra music.
Right, exactly. I was going to share also another way they could use the recordings is, as I said, we do YouTube videos where it's, the score turns. So the students could actually go to YouTube, find the piece that you're working on that's one of our pieces, or any of the pieces, and you could assign it to them to actually follow along their part, but then actually look at how all the parts work together. I don't think students get an opportunity. They for the most part are thinking one note at a time, one line at a time. And they don't get to think in terms of the whole. And isn't that what we want them to do with their ears more, is to reach out more with what else is going on?
Yeah, I mean, even if they can't study a score, they can at least take a look at one. Doesn't hurt. And as you say, then hopefully they're getting to understand the piece as opposed to the third clarinet part.
Yeah, and figuring out how their part fits into the overall whole, figuring out what's the important parts, of the piece, the melody, whatever that might be. That's the important part that should be brought out in the balance and stuff like that. Again, along with the great musicianship of the players.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a great idea. Yeah.
So, anything else, Danny, you'd like to share in terms of the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble, and maybe some things that we haven't touched on yet?
Not really. Other than folks are welcome to go ahead and like the Trade Winds Facebook page, the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble's Facebook page. Go ahead and like that so you can keep abreast of what we're doing. Larry and I will put information on there occasionally about, for example, we probably need to go ahead and put on the page that Apple Music and Spotify and all those things.
I did that yesterday.
Oh, did you? I haven't even looked. Sorry, I haven't even looked today yet. But yeah, I mean, just we try to keep people abreast, and I guess I need to be better about this myself, taking a look at it. But yeah, I mean, it's, that's, go ahead and like that page, be part of us. If you've got questions, feel free to contact me or Larry or any of the composers. And if you want to use that format to do that, feel free to do that. We'll be happy to answer those questions. And I'd love to come back and do this again, Larry. This was fun. If we could maybe
Yeah,
talk about literature a little more in depth next time.
yeah, for sure. I think that we should probably take some more time, do another video that's a little more in depth about, especially since I think for the most part we agree on musicality and how we work with a band, how we make a band sound, balance, blend, all that stuff, and elegance of phrasing and picking literature. I think that would be a fantastic another video. So why don't we do that?
Sounds great.
All right,
Thanks
we'll
for
do it
having me.
again. Thanks for
All right.
doing this for us, Danny. And again, you can get the Trade Winds Recording Ensemble's new, the 2020 selections from Excelsior Music Publishing are on all the streaming services right now, and also the ones from last year. So thank you very much, Danny, and hope to talk to you again soon, real soon. Take care, everybody.
Hope to see you all again real soon.
All right, take care.